NLP, learning a skill, any skill whatsoever, requires practice, right? So you need to become consciously competent, right? You know, the learning scale that's taught in NLP. I don't know what you've been taught, but basically there's an understanding where you start off, and when you're learning something new, you're what's called unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know, and you have no idea what you need to know. So you just, like, if you've never flown an airplane, you really have no idea what's required to learn how to fly an airplane. And I've got my pilot's license, so I went through this personally. It works like this with all learning problems, right? And then you become consciously incompetent. You become aware of the fact that you really don't know how to fly an airplane, and you're very happy that there's someone with 10,000 hours of experience next to you. Otherwise, you crash for sure. And then with practice, you become consciously competent. And then in the NLP framework of doing things, you keep practicing things, and you become what in NLP is called unconsciously competent, which means it drops down into the unconscious layers of your mind, and you now can do it without thinking. And the difference between being skillful at something and have mastery of something is that when you have mastery of it, it drops into your subconscious. You're aware, you've intentionally put it into your subconscious, and now it functions autonomously. So then you can then share with others. Mastery implies being able to share with others the skills that you've learned without having to follow a script, just by understanding it, by comprehending it and understanding it and being able to demonstrate it. Just like if you know how to ride a bicycle, I'm pretty sure that you can teach someone else how to ride a bicycle. You might be a better teacher, or more skilled, or a lower skilled teacher, but anyone who can ride a bicycle can teach someone else how to ride a bicycle. And everyone who learned how to ride a bicycle knows that whoever is learning how to ride a bike will fall at least once and have to get back up on their bicycle. Right? So these are part of strategies of how we learn, right? So what we do specifically that ties into NLP is that we use NLP as a way for the person for your intellect, for your cognitive intelligence to become aware of. There's processes in your mind that maybe you didn't know how they were working. Because in fact, if you haven't looked in, you don't know. Nobody, I'm not picking on you, nobody knows how their mind works unless they actually do the work to go in, right? So NLP is a really very interesting science of how the mind works from the perspective of the mind. And it's really important to learn that. The mind has to understand itself. And then what we do, what I've been doing, which is a slight difference, which I haven't met anybody else doing it, hopefully more people would do it, is that you learn how to organize your mind. That's essential. But then there's something to be said about tapping into the typically unconscious awareness that we have that exists beyond mind. I'll give you an example. You set an alarm to get up at, I don't know, 6 in the morning because you need to do something. And do you ever wake up at like 5:59 just before the alarm?
Yeah.
But you weren't conscious of the fact that it was 5:59, right? It's like you click, there's an unconscious part of you that actually knows what time it is. How interesting is that? Or you've had children, you're super tired, you're just completely exhausted, you're asleep next to your baby, you're near a loud bus or a railway station or an airport, it doesn't wake you up, the baby hiccups in a strange way, you wake up instantly. Right? Or somebody comes into a room where people are sleeping, they whisper somebody else's name, you don't wake up. They whisper your name, you wake up. And the other person doesn't, right? So how is it that there's an awareness that's unconscious of our mind, that's separate from our mind? So it turns out we're all born with this awareness, and when we reach a certain level of maturity, usually by the time you reach puberty, you have access to that intelligence, you have access to that awareness. That's actually the source of intuition and creativity. So it's really interesting to be able to, as a functioning adult with a functioning mind, recognize moments when you're present, awake, alert, you're not sleeping, you're alert, and your mind is off. Because when your mind is off, that awareness can become conscious. That intelligence can become conscious. It's a higher intelligence beyond mind that can be awakened. And all human beings have access to this. The only requirement is that you've reached puberty and you were born with sight and with hearing. Right? So we teach people how to access that and use the tools to clear away all the incomplete thoughts that keep turning the mind back on. Mm-hmm. If you've noticed, if you go for a walk, once you're finished walking, your legs, and you sit down, your legs usually stop moving. And you're typing away, or you're drumming, or you're painting, or drawing, or doing something with your fingers, snapping your fingers. And as soon as you stop, they stop. They don't keep doing this. But our minds, you have a thought, and then you try to stop it, and it keeps going. And then another thought comes up, and it keeps going. And another thought comes up, and it keeps going, right? And it's important to use NLP and hypnotherapy to go in through the layers of the mind, find these thoughts that are running and running and running, look at them, analyze them. See, are they thoughts that are taking you in a direction that allows you to better your life, or are they thoughts that are sabotaging you? And if they're thoughts that are taking you in a direction towards a better life, check in on them. Make sure they're worded properly, right? Make sure the instructions, the code to the mind, right? Because where our minds is like the operating system for our bodies, which are thinking, feeling, living biocomputers. So if you think of your brain and your nervous system and your entire body, your skin being the surface of your brain, which is why you can anchor experiences onto it, right? You've done that in NLP, right? So there's a connection, right? That's like where all your nerve endings are right at the surface of your skin. So it's the outer part of your brain. This biocomputer has an operating system, and that's your mind. And all babies are born without a mind. They don't know anything. Like, how many times do you have to repeat your child's name before it knows its name, or before it knows that you're mama and somebody else is papa, right? And sometimes they get it wrong, right? So after a while, through repetition, layerings and layerings of really just hypnotically repeated ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, mom, dad, right? Mama, papa, baby, good, bad, sleep, clean, bathroom, right? All the different words that start building the Lego blocks of our mind. 70, 80, 90% of all the content of our mind gets trapped into our minds in the first 5 years of our life, when we're not aware, when we don't have memories of what we learned. So NLP and hypnotherapy is really good for going in and basically spring cleaning house. The same attention and due diligence that you put into cleaning up, you know, one of these beautiful condos at Ritz-Carlton that has so many details, that same type of due diligence needs to go into cleaning up the content of your mind.
Wow.
And it's tremendously powerful. It's additionally powerful if you can do it with the added perspective of being present from a state of no mind. Awake and present from a state of no mind. So you get to see the mind from outside of the mind, go into it, clean it up, restructure it, come back out and see how it works, witness how it works. So I tie in meditation. And of course,
I was going to ask, how is it different? How does it work with meditation?
It works with meditation in the sense that when meditation was first developed as a technique, like Vipassana meditation, where you sit under a tree or you sit quietly, and that helps you resolve certain thoughts. And then the mind of 2,500 years ago was so active that just sitting quietly wasn't enough. You needed to slowly walk around the tree that you're sitting under to help create an active, dynamic meditation to clear the active thoughts. That was 2,500 years ago. Today, to go to Vipassana and sit underneath is an exercise in frustration and madness. A modern mind may experience moments of being centered and clear, but then it's not sustainable. You take it back home, you go back home, you're in Bangkok, and your mind starts running, right? So this is where NLP comes in, because the mind is running because it's got a series of incomplete processes or contradictory processes. right? Or thoughts and beliefs that are limiting and going in one direction, and then other thoughts that are going in another, and that creates a tension, and then the mind never stops. So it's tremendously valuable to learn how to use these tools to work on yourself, to clear yourself, to discover what's my core programming. What did I learn? What did I imprint from my parents, from my culture, from my society that keeps emerging or exhibiting itself as some sort of sabotage or negative behavior, something that doesn't allow me to be as healthy as I know that I could be, or as I would like to be, or as balanced. That now I'm talking physically, emotions, psychologically, financially, right? Your financial health. All has to do with the thoughts you have. So it's the thoughts you have about your body, about your emotions, about your mind, about spirit, about love, about sex, about God, about death, and about money and business and relationships. So we have all these different territories in our mind that are full of thoughts that we mostly imprinted, and behaviors we mostly imprinted unconsciously from our childhood, during our childhood, when we're not aware, when we're not capable of saying, Mom, Dad, teacher, preacher, you're talking nonsense. I'm not doing that. Of course, you get slapped if that. Most people get slapped if they say that. But kids usually can't say that because they don't have the complexity of the thought process hasn't matured, right? The bio-thinking, the thinking, feeling biocomputer of the body is still immature, and it's imprinting its core programming through the education that it's getting, through the contact it has with the different people you grew up with in your life. By the time you reach puberty, you have 99% of your behaviors already locked in, and it requires tools like hypnotherapy and NLP to go in and untangle them. This is why these are such powerful tools, right? Does that make sense?
No, 100%. And that's what I've come to, if I'm, I've had to be completely honest with myself. Like I actually moved to Hua Hin. I gave up my apartment to really save the company during COVID, not knowing, how long it would last for, to ensure that jobs were saved. I had a friend's villa in Hua Hin that I've been very fortunate to have keys to for a long time, and he can't get back to Thailand. And it's been the best decision I've made, from a point of just taking myself out of the rut, taking myself out of that environment, and actually having this time and this peaceful environment to really assess what I want out of this life, and realizing all the self-sabotaging that I do. I'm educated, I learn, I read, I'm an avid reader. I consume all of this. I know all about the daily habits and the base level of neuroscience and how the brain works and everything that you've just done a recap on the last 5 minutes. And yet I don't prioritize my health. I don't stick to these, good morning routines, not all of them anyway. And I have a 15, 20 years as a financial business analyst, and yet I don't make that a priority. This is what I want to discover.
Right.
I have all the tools. I've had, the lessons given to me, and yet I'm not installing them.
Right. So
it's
my question, yep, go ahead.
No, is it self-sabotage, or is it limited belief, or is it a mixture of both?
Mixture of both. It's a mixture of both. And then there's one other factor, which is NLP and hypnosis for marketing and sales purposes and PR has been around for the last 50 years. And it was sold to privately and sort of silently to the vested interests, which are the big corporation, government organizations, big religious organization, and banking interests, have been using this and have been manipulating our minds for everyone who was born since the 50s onward, and since the advent of TV and radio and advertising. We're getting continuously programmed. Every salesperson learns NLP, even if they don't know it's NLP. They learn NLP techniques to close their sales, right? So we're bombarded with programming that is not in our highest interest. It's in the vested interest of the people who are selling us something. So for me, it's essential. I think every human being, just like everyone needs to learn how to brush and floss their teeth, right? After meals, everyone needs to mental floss. Everyone needs to be able to go in and clear themselves of sticky thoughts, ideas, beliefs, desires, right? One of the things that was done is that we all have fears. And it's important to have fears because you need to be motivated. You need to have a survival mindset for survival situations. Your fear needs to help you move out of the way, right? You're walking along the path. You see in the dark, you see a snake, you leap out of the way before thinking. Then you look and you realize it's just an old hose and you laugh at yourself, right? So these are necessary afraid that the body needs to have. They're holistic, they're organic, and they're necessary. And we all have desires. I want to have a better life. I want to feel good. I want to have the yummiest possible life experience. And I want to move away from pain and suffering. And I want to go towards pleasure and yumminess, right? Who doesn't want that? That's a natural drive. But something that was discovered, incidentally enough, by a man named Edward Bernays. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud. There's a 4-part series put out by the BBC you can find on YouTube for free called The Century of Self, or A Century of Self, or The Century of Self. And it's an interview with Edward Bernays after he's made millions and millions selling techniques to get people to buy things they don't need, and oftentimes things that are bad for you. Like, it was his marketing genius, evil genius, so to speak, that made it so that in one weekend, there was the May Day parade or some sort of parade in New York. It was done in such a way, he was paid by Big Tobacco to create an advertising technique that would make women smoke more, because women are born more grounded in their bodies and tend to be more healthy and more intelligent when it comes to their body until that fateful weekend. The marketing technique, the NLP market, was so good that since then, more women smoke than men from that day on all around the world. Before, they couldn't get women to smoke because women were too grounded in your bodies. You're physical creatures, more in your bodies because you bleed, you create life, you incubate and grow a life form inside of you. That forces you to be in part of the earth. Men are usually lost in their heads. Women tend to be more in their hearts and in their bodies. You have a monthly reminder of it. Men get lost in their heads. So it was easy to get men to smoke, but it was really hard. So they used NLP and hypnotherapy and PR and what they did was, and here's the most important thing, cross-linking fears and desires. So if you're just afraid of something, you can do meditation, you can explore yourself, you can look at it and go, this is a simple fear, I can drop it. Or if you have a desire, you can look at a desire for what it is and see that it's never satisfying, so you can drop it. But when your fears are cross-linked to your desires on a specific target, like, something that, a car, a lifestyle, money, jewelry, the brand bags, right? The sense of being empowered as a human being or as a woman to step up and be empowered in a man's world. All of these things have been snuck in with clever marketing tools using imagery, using submodalities to trick the mind into cross-linking fears and desires. Now your mind unconsciously fears not having what everybody else have and desires having it. And this has been going on since the 50s. So I was born in 66. My entire life I was immersed in that, right? We're born and we're like little white sponges, clean sponges. And if you drop a clean sponge in clean water and then you leave it out to dry, it's still a clean sponge, right?
Yeah.
If you drop it in polluted or filthy, toxic water and you rinse it in toxic water, it stays toxic its whole life. So we're born like sponges that absorb everything in our culture, all of the good, the bad, the beautiful, the dirty, the ugly, the shameful, the guilty, right? The naughty, the right, everything, right? So we absorb all of that and we don't, it's normal. It becomes normal for us. We never challenge it. So it's useful to be aware of this, to then use the tools and start systematically mapping out your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your desires, your fears, your goals, your dreams, and compare them to your actual reality of your health. Like, where actually are you? Are you as healthy as you need to be? If you're not effortlessly healthy, it's because you're somehow unconsciously pulling yourself away.
Mm.
Right? So it's like if you like to grow plants, if you like to have flowers in your garden, do you pull on the buds and squeeze them and massage them to make a flower, or do you not touch the flowers and just make sure the roots get everything they need?
Mm.
Right? If the roots get everything they need, the flowers come by themselves.
Yeah.
If you try to do something with the flower, you damage the flower. It doesn't come out. And our roots, the roots of our consciousness, are filled with toxins and poisons. So they need a systematic detox of the known toxins that you will have absorbed wherever you were born, into whatever family you were born in, at whatever socioeconomic level, with whatever beliefs, with whatever philosophies, with whatever ideas, right? And this will be the core. And then layered on top of that will be what you learn from your teachers and your neighbors and your friends and their parents. And layered on top of that will be then the things that you, because by the time we're 7, 8 years old, 9, 10, we start deciding what we want to do with our lives. But we don't have the level of complexity, the cognitive skills, the understandings to know right from wrong. We're still a little too young, right? So we start deciding which way we want to go, and now we start adding content into our minds without filtering it properly to see if it's proper content or not, right? You have children, you have to, you can't just let them turn on the TV or surf anything on the internet. They'll watch all sorts of stuff without even knowing that it's bad. They'll be like, huh, what are those people doing? That's interesting.
Yeah.
That looks weird. But not realizing that it's programming them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
can I ask, just on that note, it takes me to an article I read about a gentleman called Chip Conley, and it was about, you know, your stages in life of attainment versus attunement. So if your 20s, 30s, 40s, your attainment, you know, the bigger house and the career and all these materialistic things. And then by the time you get to your sort of 40s, 50s onwards, it's all about attunement, downsizing, you know, realizing time with family and friends, and this, you know, self-development is more important. Is that just being more conscious to this? How does that shift occur?
there's layers of, see, our bodies are continuously developing processes. We're not built in factories. We're not created to be a certain way. We're in a continuous state of emergence and evolution. That's just a biological fact. Whatever beliefs you have in your head are beautiful, and you can believe whatever you want, but there's something to be said about also understanding the development of the body. So we start off with the awareness of a bacteria, because we're a single cell. We start off as an egg and a sperm, and the egg puts off a smell, and that sperm has to, it's basically a bacteria with a tail that has to follow that. It's a chemotaxic approach that bacteria have. It has to find that egg and penetrate it. And then as soon as the egg is penetrated by the sperm, it shifts, and now it starts a transformation. And it goes through all the stages of evolutionary development. We start off as bacteria, then we become like a clump of cells, like a sea sponge. Then that hollows out and turns into a tube like a worm. Then we start growing appendages and heads and tails and arms and legs and gills that we have in the first trimester of our development. Then those transform, because we're not just not worms or fish. We evolved from bacteria to sponges to worms to fish to reptiles to mammals. And right at the point, the transition point where we're like transitioning, we have the complexity, the neural complexity of a reptile about to become a mammal. That's when we're born. And we're born in fight or flight, in pure survival mode, because we need milk and we need warmth or we die. So we scream out of pain and fear and hunger, and we're comforted by being held. And then in the first 3 years of our life, we develop to a point where we have the same cognitive capacity, the same awareness and intelligence as a one-day-old chimpanzee, has the same level of complexity as a 3-year-old human being.
Crazy.
So everything you've imprinted from your parents whether they were in shape or not, whether they were fighting, whether they really loved each other or just put up with each other or hated their guts and beat each other. Usually it's somewhere, right? Someone somewhere within there, we're imprinting that. Not just language, but all the behaviors, all of our approaches in life. These are the pre-verbal years. So we imprint that, and then somewhere around the age of 3, 4, 5, we start having memories. Well, you know, you go back, what's your oldest memory? We start discovering that, you know, hey, I'm a boy or I'm a girl. We start saying, you know, me, mine, and start speaking our desires and our fears. And all of that builds, these are the roots of our consciousness. They're the roots of our intellect, of our mind, of our intelligence. And if we're born in a healthy, balanced, natural society, like there have been lots of, you know, native Aboriginal tribes around the world, in Australia, and the Amazon, in Asia, and right, all around in Africa, then the child grows to be a healthy, functional, fit with its environment and its community being. But if we're imprinting and inheriting ideas and beliefs that are out of date, that might have been great 1,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago or even 100 or 50 years ago, but today the needs of a child to know itself and know its environment and know how to thrive are different. If you live in Bangkok or, you know, Brisbane or New York or Lima, wherever you come from, you're going to have certain types of needs. So we imprint our core behaviors, and they've been molded and manipulated with NLP and hypnotherapy. So you need to use the same tools to untangle the mind that was created with that type of tool. One of the things that I noticed here in Asia was that 20 years ago, this country was so fresh. The people were still very healthy, very innocent. There were spots and places where people were getting more lost, more confused, and more corrupted near the big cities, like around Bangkok and parts of Chiang Mai and certain cities, but nature was really clear. And then there was a wave, especially through the internet, of marketing techniques that just overtook the people of this country, the minds in this part of the world, because they didn't have the natural defenses. In other words, NLP and marketing for sales and manipulation by government and, you know, banking and corporate and religious vested interests have been actively using mind manipulation technology, which is what NLP is. You're manipulating the content of your mind. You're reframing, you're changing colors and flavors and feelings and associations to different experiences in one way or another. Our minds have been under a barrage, an assault on how to think to fit and conform with society. And you see it more than ever now with the whole COVID, you know, pandemic crisis, how people in some parts of the world freak out and, you know, go loot stores for toilet paper, and in other places they go, you know, beat each other up and kill each other because of the color of their skin or what they think, what somebody thinks about, what somebody else thinks about the color of their skin. That's enough to go, you know, riot and loot and kill people. Right? So to me, that just shows how progressively insane where our minds are becoming. And it's because these tools have been used like power tools to manipulate our minds. So you can it's really valuable to create a beautiful space for yourself like you have. Sometimes it's better to be out of a city, or if you're in a city, to be able to be in a place that is, like the reason we're at Ritz-Carlton residence is because in that space we can create a nest, a cocoon that nourishes us and protects us from the intensity of being in a city like Bangkok.
Completely agree.
And on a lower budget, I can't do it. I need the food, I need the isolation, I need the thick walls, I need the space and the views and the art and the quality to be able to unwind and then step out into the world and do something that makes a difference with money. Because without money, you can just live in a little hut in nature and be happy. That's pretty easy. If you want to live and be an active participant and have an impact on people and be able to generate millions, you need to have the clear mindset for it, the healthy body for it, and then the environment that supports that quality of lifestyle.
Completely agree.
So
Completely agree.
what we do is we end up importing and downloading scripts, unconscious scripts for what our health is going to be, how we're going to do with our emotions, what our beliefs are going to be, what our ideas about money are going to be, and what's good, what's bad, what's right, what's wrong. Can you be happy with money? Can you not be happy with money? How much money can you have before you sabotage yourself? Right? Like these rock stars or celebrities, or people who win a lottery and they come from an inner city or some poor town, and suddenly they're millionaires, and within a very short time they're bankrupt, dead, suicided, depressed, because they blew out their money circuit. They put too much current through a wiring which is too thin. Right? Does that make sense? If I want to charge my AirPods, I use a thin wire and I put 5 volts through it. If I want to charge, the wire for my house is thicker, and the cables for 100,000 volts going through the power lines are even thicker than that. If you put too much power through this, you burn it. So you can use NLP to elicit, identify, map out your scripts, your thoughts, your beliefs about money, about wellness, about health, about life, love, the universe. Any ideas we have about, clean them up. Make sure that they're in alignment with reality. And then how do you know what's reality? Well, our bodies have this amazing ability to track reality when our minds are off and we're present. When our minds are on, we're in projection mode. So it's kind of like, you ever play with a walkie-talkie? Like a two-way radio?
Yeah.
Right. So
yes.
It's true. Isn't it true that when the walkie-talkie the two-way radio is fully charged, the antenna is nice and straight, and it's on scan mode, it can receive from anyone that's transmitting. But the instant you press the talk button, what can it no longer do?
Not receive.
You can't receive. Right? So our nervous system is the same way. Like, it's wired the same way as a two-way radio. So when you are thinking, when you're desiring, when you're fearing, when you have a goal, when you have an ambition, when you have a drive to do something, you're in projection mode. But then you're not receiving information from existential reality from the rest of you. See, the nervous system is only 10% of the cells in your body, and every single cell in your body is equally intelligent. But the intelligence is in different areas. The systems we have for processing logic and reasoning are different from feelings and sensation, different from what what comes in through our skin, through our bones, through our muscles. Sometimes you feel something in your gut or in your bones or on the surface of your skin. You feel something about somebody or about a situation, and it's not logical, it's intuitive. It's a gut feeling, right? So it's really valuable to be able to dive in, map out the content of your mind, and realign it, throw out the junk files, right? Clean out your closet, so to speak, right? Do a spring cleaning. But it's also essential to do it in a way that allows your mind to also effortlessly stop as needed so that information can come in. Right? It's like, imagine you're out lost in the countryside somewhere, and you're heading in a certain direction, and suddenly it's pitch black and you can't see anything. And then there's a flash of lightning, and in that flash of lightning you can see the shape of the hill or the trees, or there's a stream or there's a ledge, right? So then you can navigate for a while because you see, oh, I'm going north, but north is that way, so you adjust your course, right? Then you keep going, and then you wait for the next flash of lightning, and that allows you to correct your course. So we all have the capacity to do this intuitively, right? You've had flashes of intuition. You've had flashes of creativity. You can have them, right? So my question to you is, do you know what to do to create the conditions to have a flash of creativity or intuition on demand?
I've been doing more meditation, which definitely assists with that. as well as gratitude journals. And getting into the habits of like making my bed every day, having cold showers, things like that. But I'm definitely, I don't know, my natural, every day I wake up, I have this plan and then I'll sabotage it by just jumping into work. I'm constantly, I have learned to set boundaries and take time off when I know that my body is telling me to take time off. But I don't know if it's such a love of learning or a love, I feel like I can't stop. I feel like I'm constantly needing to be doing something on the business, doing something on my learning, doing something, progressing.
Right.
I want to utilize every single moment to be a better version of myself or achieve, I don't even know what it is.
Right. And that's the common meme. That's the common approach that in the West we've developed. Mm-hmm. And it gets you along, but there's a struggle along the way, and it continuously sabotages, and you have to stop and reset yourself. And what's happening is that these sabotages are necessary for us to suddenly be at a point where you just don't know what to do next. You're just like, how did I get here? What do I do next? And your mind stops, and that's when the flash of intuition comes through. That's when the understanding comes through. That's when the lightning flashes, and now suddenly you go, oh, I needed to go this way. Oh, why didn't I notice that before? Well, because your eyes were closed, because you were in projection mode. The information is continuously coming in. You have, I don't know, 30, 50, 100 trillion intelligent cells that are all working together. 10% of that is for the intellect, for the knowing, for the mind. And 90% of it is all the other unconscious intelligences. There's something to be said about learning how to clear your mind using NLP, and then using meditation and modern meditation techniques, using NLP and understanding that the mind is being tricked into never turning off. Because if your mind never turns off, there's a million talk buttons on your walkie-talkie. There's no off buttons. There's a million talk buttons. So if we're continuously triggering our thoughts to do, to step up, to take action, then we're missing our ability to track reality and go, well, where am I right now? And what's the actual next step? So it's of added value to learn how to stop and reboot your mind. You want to be able to stop and reboot your mind and be present, even if only for a few seconds. And there's gentle ways of doing it. There's medium intensity, and then there's like intense ways of doing it, depending on what's going on. So you're just relaxed, nothing's going on, not too much. You can take a few simple breaths, and that'll drop you into a quiet space consciously, so that you can then see what comes up or see what comes through. Then let's say you're trying to learn something. You're in an active mode, right? There's the passive mode. Then there's an active way. There's of breathing and things of how to become aware of when your mind stops and it pauses for a moment. When you're learning and you're doing active things and working. And then there's an emergency process for when you're having an anxiety attack or a migraine headache or things are just spiraling out of control. How do you stop the mind? Like emergency brake, just stop it. It's going to start back up again, but you get that moment of, we're completely lost and I'm freaking out and it's hailing and it's, lightning and thunder and fires, and let's pull over, take a breath, look around, sip of water. Okay, we're here. Which way are we going? We're going that way, or we're going this way. So these are skills that everyone can figure out for themselves what works for you. I have a free program called Stop and Reboot Your Mind online. I'll give you the link. You can just try it and see how it works for you. And then from there, you use your NLP techniques to then, you have an awareness of, okay, what's coming up? What's the first thought that comes up? And then you use your NLP skills to break it down to, is it a word or an image or a feeling or a sensation or a memory? What triggers this thought process that makes me go in some way that's unhealthy or that sabotages something that I want to do that's healthy? Because the only way that, it's always self-sabotage, but it's unconscious self-sabotage. And once you see the once you recognize the pattern, once you see what it is, you stop doing it. Just like everyone on this planet has accidentally, poked their eyes with a finger. And I don't think there's anybody on the planet that needs to try to block themselves from poking their eyes out. Like, you just don't do that. You just know to keep, and if anybody comes close to you, you're like, whoa, whoa, not near my eyes, right? So we have unconscious behaviors that are like that, right? Or like tying one shoelace of one shoe to another and going for a run. You just don't do that. You don't do it consciously, but unconsciously, we learn how to do that. So creating a rich environment for yourself and seeing what your thoughts are, and then stopping your mind, seeing what you're feeling, stopping the mind are really good first steps. Because ideally, you will know what your body, what you, the thinking, feeling body, needs to have a flash of creativity or intuition. Because it happens to you. It can happen. It's just, is it happening accidentally or semi-accidentally? Well, if I kind of meditate, or I get some rest, or I eat these foods, or, right, this will help. There's things you can specifically do to trigger or elicit a moment of clarity, a moment of intuition, a moment of being centered, a moment of creativity. They're built into your biology. Everybody has them. You can't not have them. So, but you can be distracted from them. And this was figured out thousands of years ago. It was figured out thousands of years ago that you keep people in their beliefs, you keep them separated, you keep them identified to a gender or a sex, and then you keep them repressed from sex because you tell them it's dirty and it's guilty, and then you tell them that they have to become someone and not accept who they are, and that if they had whiter skin, or here in Thailand, they want bigger noses and whiter skin, and you're like, but your nose is perfect and your skin's so beautiful, right? And then everyone's getting, and then in the West, they're like reducing the size of their nose and darkening their skin. It's like, we have all these counterintuitive, against our own nature, ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and behavior patterns, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to figuring this out, there's two steps to it. The first is find anyone or any book where you can learn the techniques from, because they're basic, essential techniques. You can read books on NLP written by countless people. You can go to NLP courses given by countless coaches and practitioners, and that's great. And that's for the entry level. And then for the higher level, I'm going to add something that's just my own personal, but it's really worked for me, is that I'm looking for people who've really mastered it. Someone who's really mastered NLP, they're in healthy, strong, sexy, fun, beautiful, relaxed bodies. And they're emotionally clear, and their minds are sharp, and they're out there, and they can make millions. Otherwise, like, you're going to look for a coach or for a mentor. I always say, get someone who is at least a couple of steps ahead of you.
Absolutely. Right? So that's why I'm speaking to you.
Right? Does that make sense? Sure. Because there are a lot of people out there that teach and sell these techniques, but they're kind of theoretical. They haven't applied them to themselves at the deepest levels. And you can tell by the way they live their lives, or by the health, by the quality of their physique. Right? You don't judge a book by its cover, but you definitely assess a human's health by how it looks, how it feels, and how it smells. Like, just like a mango. Right? You pick a good mango because you pick it, you squeeze it, you smell it, and you pick a good human because you got to be able to pick them, see them with your eyes, squeeze their hand or give them a hug, come close enough to smell them, see them, look at their eyes, see their skin. Are these people actually healthy or not? I choose the people that I work with, that I interact with, that I connect with, that I want to learn from, to, of course, be authentically healthy, holistically healthy, right? Does that make sense? So for a higher... So there's going to be, you can learn 90% of the NLP stuff you can learn from anybody, from a program online, and, having a place to practice doing, working with submodalities and reframing and associations and disassociations, and, right, identifying a limiting belief and reframing it. These are things that are necessary to practice with someone. But if you really want to get into mastery, you want to find people that have mastery in certain things. So if someone is healthier than you, then go to them for health, or wealthier than you, go to them for wealth. Or if you want a holistic approach, find someone who will give you a higher holistic, that'll demonstrate a mastery of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. And of course you can do the mastery course from anyone, but if you don't find someone you want to work with or you can work with, but then guide yourself. Use the skills to guide yourself. How, if I was my own client, what would I say to myself, and how would I get myself to change this habit? Because a lot of times there's just habits. We pick up habits. So something that's really useful is to understand that it takes about 3 to 4 weeks, 21 to 28 days to change a habit. So you need the discipline to, let's say you have a problem with eating not the highest quality foods. Well, if you want to change that, you need to invest in the higher quality foods, and for at least 3 weeks, just eat the higher quality foods, and then notice how it feels in your body. Because it has to be, I'm going to eat the best foods and invest in myself. I don't care how much it costs. I'd rather have that and drive a less nicer car or wear secondhand clothes and feel good than have the nicer house or the nicer car or the jewelry, but be in a body that just doesn't feel well. This is a priority that can only be, has to be an innate understanding. There has to be a psychological comprehension of what's going on. That's what NLP is for analyzing your mind. And then there has to be an actual physical understanding of, wow, if I eat this, I feel really good. If I eat this other junk, I feel really crappy. So what are the Lego blocks that I'm putting in for my body? Same. If I hang out with these people are always looking for ways to find new ways to express themselves. And if they're angry, they find intelligent ways to release it. And they grow emotionally. These people are always just repressing, or they just want to get drunk, or they just, they get aggressive and they defend their inadequacies instead of authentically looking for feedback, right? People who are going to mirror you. And so then you choose, okay, I'm going to eat these foods and I'm going to stay away from these foods. I'm going to hang out with these people and I'm going to stay away from these people. I'm going to work with these people, right? Same with money. Yeah. There's a lot of people that make a lot of money out there, but they do it in ways that are dirty or not clean or poisoning the environment or hurting other people. These people cannot be sane and healthy and happy. It's an impossibility. Yeah. So if anyone is, like we don't expect dirty money. People have to clean up their money before we work, for example, because we know it won't work, right? Yeah. So clear yourself. Do your full inner cleaning. You need to do sort of an inner cleaning retreat on yourself and see what you can clean up by yourself. And what I do is I have people just, okay, get the best foods, sleep as much as you need, stay off social media as much as possible. Try to buy yourself a window of time where you don't need to be on the phone. If you need it 1 or 2 hours, maybe 3 hours a day giving instructions to your team, to your staff, right? Because you're running a business. You need to be able to be functional. So we're not saying lock yourself in a monastery or in a cave somewhere. Create an active, an active modern ashram for yourself. Your home should be a place where when you arrive, your body can relax. And you don't know what you want to eat. You open up the cupboards in the refrigerator and everything is natural, healthy, and good. So eat whatever you want. Yeah. How much? Whatever is most delicious until it stops being the most delicious thing. Right? If the food's delicious before, during, and after, like the idea of eating it kind of, I want to eat that. And then you start eating it. That's really yummy. And then if you keep eating something yummy, after a while, the flavor starts to go away. You're like, oh, that means I've eaten enough. You put it away. And then the next day you feel good. Right? So you start creating habits that are empowering physically, emotionally, psychologically. Just go for better. Even if it's just slightly better. Just a little better, a little better, a little better, a little more exercise, a little more relaxation, a little more quality of everything. Slowly, the quality of your life will start going up. And then what happens is that you get it. Like you grok it. Like the body's like, oh, right, this is the path towards a healthier life. versus I just did some exercise and I did great. So now, now I can go to the McDonald's. It's like, well,
Yeah.
all right, you can do that, but you're going up and down, up and down, up and down. As time goes on, you'll crash.
Mm.
When we reach our 40s, we're kind of in the middle of our life. By that point, you're either on a well-established upward path. As John likes to say, you're using your ladders to go up, or you're not. And if you're not using a ladder to go up, you are falling. You are going down, right? And some people are actively sabotaging. So if you're actively sabotaging, then the thing to do is to start writing out and mapping out. Make sure you have time to map out all your thoughts, ideas, feelings, and beliefs about your body. Stand naked in front of a mirror and check yourself out. What do you like? What do you not like? What thoughts come up? What bothers you? What disturbs you? What do you hope for? What would you like to have? Write these things out. Map it out. Like, take inventory. Same with your emotions. You have repressed angers or sadnesses. We all do until they come out. Create a beautiful, safe space where you can go in and explore your sadness. Allow yourself to get sad, or allow yourself to get angry, and then take a towel and bite it, scream into it, or beat up a cushion, or put your head under, go for a swim and put your head underwater and scream as loud as you can. Nobody can hear you. The mermaids won't be frightened. You won't scare away the blamug. Will be like, huh, what's happening there? Just scream underwater. With your face in the water down, if you scream, the air pressure, your throat doesn't get hurt. Right? And start releasing and write down all your feelings and your emotions. By you're angry, write letters. Now, you're not going to mail them, but write letters to people that you're angry with, or you feel anger or hatred or shame or guilt. There's something you've done or something they've done. Write it in cursive, sign it, date it, release it, rip it up, and then burn it somewhere safe, like a flower pot on your deck or in your garden. And every time it comes up, repeat that. And it's a slow detox process. Just slowly, step by step, we've accumulated a lifetime of content without knowing that holds us down physically, emotionally, and psychologically. Right? Does that make sense?
100%, absolutely. And some of those things I've taken positive steps, especially negative energy. Any friends that I've held on to just out of loyalty, or believing that, in that little nugget of they have a gold, like a loving heart, for example, but all they bring is negative energy. I've released that. I don't have that in my life anymore. And I've accepted to not feel bad to not have them in my life anymore. I think I've just been on robotic mode too long,
and mind is automatic. It's
yes.
It's conscious, but it's mostly unconscious.
Just to survive in a lot of ways. And I think coming to Hua Hin has forced me to just go, I had a high blood pressure reading of 211, and I'm like, this is crazy, why am I sacrificing my health? And my happiness is, on a day-to-day basis, I wake up happy. I don't know how to say it any other way. I'm very grateful for everything I have, and practicing gratitude is, on a daily basis is definitely emphasize that in my life. But now I've invested every last cent. In the last 3 months, I've invested every last cent I have for this self-development, for this growth, for this change. I believe in myself. I know I can make the money again. I'm not fearful to be down to nothing. I know the abundance of the universe and how that works, and I believe that. But I have to make this change, but I still have these self-sabotaging moments, where I'm just doing hours at work or hours at self-development, but I'm not focusing on having nutritious meals or spending the time exercising that I know I need to. I know I feel good doing.
Right. So what I find is that you can give yourself a window of, let's say, 3 weeks, 1 month. You're just going to, finish off, give away, clear out all the toxic food in your house and fill it with the best food that you can afford. And just eat that. And just keep yourself disciplined. until until you get it. You'll notice that you'll start feeling lighter and healthier slowly. When I was a boy, I was born in Peru, and my family from Europe, from France and Spain and all around Germany. And my French grandmother, she would go to the Central Market in Lima on weekends, and she'd come back. I remember she came back once with this little plastic bag full of these gray, disgusting looking, slimy snails. And I looked at her and I was like, what is that? She's like, escargot. I'm like, no. She goes, just, no, of course not. She goes, look at them. They're horrible, but just watch. I was like, okay. And she had this cute little wooden cage that she put them in, and then she hung it in her garden, and she would put in leaves of herbs, basil, thyme, right? And just natural plants from her garden. And 3 days later, these little snails were green, glowing, plump, and delicious. She would just cook them up in butter and white wine, and they were like pre-infused with natural herbs from home. And I realized that, wow, our life has a natural detox medicine. If you just take it out of the poisons and you put it into, if you take a dirty sponge and you put it in clean water, it starts cleaning itself. You got to squeeze it and then take it out and put it in clean water again, and squeeze it and take it out and put it in clean water again. Eventually, that sponge will clean itself up. Same with our bodies. Simply, I do the 90% rule. 90% of what I eat is the highest quality, and 10% is whatever junk food comes along. I do it for two reasons. First, because I don't like denying myself anything, and sometimes you just need a pack of crisps or whatever it is, right? A Coca-Cola, whatever you like. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't suffer. Don't go to any extremes, right? Everything in moderation, including moderation. And then also because there's so many toxins in the food that our bodies need they need a little bit of it to learn how to detox against it. What they don't want is to be overwhelmed with toxins. So it's okay to eat a little bit of something that's not the highest quality, or that's some sort of junk food, up to 10% of the time. Give yourself permission to simply figure out what tastes most delicious before, during, and after. And then just make it, well, let me ask you, do you want to have anything less than a delicious life? Is there, so you have your own concept of yummy and yucky, right? Everybody has their own concept of yummy or yucky, right? So do you have any philosophical or psychological or emotional or religious or metaphysical objections towards choosing a yummier life? Is there any reason why anyone shouldn't have the yummiest possible life? Right. So just put what direction? What is the direction of my life heading towards? Yummier. How dare you? Somebody's going to say that to you. You're like, stupid. Go be as yucky as you want, as far away from me as possible. Away from yucky towards yummy. And just make that your mantra. Keep it as simple as like any baby would understand it. Yummy, yucky. I want yummy. Great, here's yummy. Try it. And learn by doing. A glass of wine can be yummy. A bottle of wine the next day is yucky. Right? So, right? So have the right amount. Find the middle path between too much and too little, and whatever is yummiest, unapologetically go towards yummy and pleasure. And what you may find coming up are thoughts of guilt or shame against feeling good, against pleasure. There's unconscious thoughts and beliefs against feeling good and against pleasure, against what's natural and right. Because this is how the establishment and the powers that be for the last 5,000 years has been operating. When Gautama Buddha woke up, when Lao Tzu woke up, the world was already mad and lost. People were already crazy in their heads, but everything was natural and organic, and you could just, wake up and laugh at people because there was no, wars. They just threw rocks and sticks at each other, or arrows, and, there were no nuclear bombs. There was no, heavy metals in the food due to poisoning. There was no, the damage on the environment for plants and animals and people has escalated so much that I find it essential to really focus on, okay, I'm going to create the nicest place for me to live and have the highest quality life. And I'm going to pay myself first. I'm going to be 100% selfish about this with me and my family. I'm going to first take care of myself. So I have what I need so that this thinking, feeling, amazing biocomputer of life can thrive. Right? And then you need to be aware of that we have 3 gears in our mind. We have a survival mode for certain situations. We have a living mode, and then we have a thriving mode. And it's important to understand when you're in survival mode, when you're in living mode, and when you're in thriving mode. And it's different for your body than for your mind. And a lot of people don't notice the distinction. For example, a lot of people are in survival mode and behaving, eating, and doing the things that they do and reacting and behave, overreacting, because they believe that they're in survival mode. But here's the question: is anything trying to attack you or kill you right now? Are you in any danger? Are you in light? Look around, make sure. Bombs falling, tsunamis, waves, earthquakes, the masses of people that are out to hurt you. There's nobody around you, right? So is there any reason to be physically in survival mode right now?
No.
If tomorrow there's a reason, then go into it. But if there's no reason,
Sure.
then you don't have to be in survival mode, right? Then psychologically, are you about to get kicked out of your house? You're about to be bankrupt. You're about to lose everything. There's people knocking on your door, not to hurt you physically, but to take everything and put you in jail because you haven't paid your bills. If the answer is no, then you have no need to be in psychological survival mode. If you have enough to minimally put food on your table and pay your bills, you're in living mode. You're not in survival mode. Survival mode means you don't know where you're going to get your next meal and you're hungry, right?
Yeah.
So we can put ourselves into survival mode. I'm in survival mode. I'm thinking I'm in survival. Everybody keep repeating that. It's fight or flight. I'm in survival mode, but you don't need it. It's like you're driving on a normal dirt road and you're in 4-wheel drive in the lowest setting to get out of, a big mud pit. And you're overheating the car. Have you ever done that? Have you ever gone off-roading? It's like you can put it into survival mode is like low and reverse is like survival mode for an off-road vehicle. It's the greatest traction power to strength ratio to pull the car out of the hole it fell into, but it's not for the highway. It's not even for a normal road. Mm-hmm. So are you in living mode? Okay, you're living. You have enough. You're paying your bills, right? You had to adjust and move out of Bangkok to Hua Hin so that you now have, I can tell from the reflection that there's a certain amount of space and light and nature and quality to where you're at.
Yeah,
so,
it's lovely.
Yeah, exactly. So then, yeah, look at that. Now, that's not survival mode. You're in living mode.
No.
You're in living mode. Mm-hmm. And then let me ask you a question. Do you have moments of creativity?
Yes.
Because if you have a single flash of creativity, you are now ready to shift gears into thriving mode. Because it's not how much you have, are the conditions for you set so that do you really need to be in fear? Or can you be in creativity? And if you're going to have time to sit and be in creativity, if you have time to read a book and learn about NLP, that's the lowest gear of thriving. And you can see yourself as, I have what it takes to thrive. Do I need to be afraid of survival? Well, if the bombs start falling, then I need a contingency plan, right? If there's a big fire, then I got to figure out what's going to happen, right? If I don't know, whatever craziness is going to come next, right? So when that's coming, okay, now I'm in survival mode, but then you do it, I'm going into survival mode, which means I'm going to kick your butt if you come near me, right? Because you're dangerous to me. Or I'm going into survival mode because I need to save my child from a predator. So then I go in and I go ready to take massive action to destroy the danger. So I'm unapologetically in survival mode if I have to be. But I'm also unapologetically in thrival mode if I have enough if I can time it, if I can read a book or watch a movie, you have enough, you're ready to thrive. And that can be done at any level. Now there's going to be numbers in your mind, part of your script, of how much money will trigger you to being in survival mode, living mode, or thriving mode. So some people, if they have less than $1 million, they're in survival mode. Well, okay, up to you, but I would suspect you could adjust that number down, right?
Sure.
And then there's people that are living on minimum wage that actually are okay, and they're creative, and they sing little songs on the side, or they learn how to play guitar, or they like to sketch. You know, they work at a fast food place, and then they go home and they have time to, you know, play on a keyboard, a little cheap keyboard that they bought, but they're being creative. They're making music, or they're drawing, they're sketching. If you find yourself in any way creative, consider giving yourself permission to get out of survival gear. So map out, what are all my survival thoughts? And they're associated to what number of money. If I have less than how much? 1 million baht in the bank, 100,000 baht in the bank, 10,000 baht in the bank, 1,000 baht in the bank. If I'm down to my last, 50 satang, okay, now I'm in survival mode.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really valuable to test yourself and see what happens when you're at zero, like you've done. Jantra and I intentionally drove ourselves down to zero to see what would happen at zero. And two interesting things happened. First, Jantra, born in the jungles between Thailand and Cambodia with no money, and learned how to live wild and light a fire rubbing sticks and catch food. She had no fears of not having any money because she'd always find a way to. There's always some resource available. I was terrified. I remember we were in Chiang Mai in a beautiful 10-bedroom mansion on the Mae Ping River, and I only had $30,000 in my account, 1 million baht, and I'd wake up in terror in the middle of the night, because having lived in New York and area in LA and Santa Barbara and Lima, if you've only got $30,000, that's it. That's not a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So that's something of concern. But living in Thailand and Chiang Mai 10 years ago with 1 million baht, you're not in survival mode. And then I would watch it go down 5, 20, 15, 13, 10, 9, 8. We went down to our last $2. We had $2. We hadn't paid our rent in 8 months. We hadn't paid for our transportation in 6 months. We had 2 eggs in the house and a packet of noodles. We had no money for anything. A cat was crying. A feral cat that had just given a litter to kittens was crying because it had been raining for 3 days and she was so hungry. And Jantra and I decided to give her 1 egg, because that was a lot of food for her and her kittens, her 3 kittens. We shared the other egg and a packet of noodles, and then we burned the last bit of money that we had just to see, okay, universe, we're down at zero, come get us. And everything reset, and I never felt so peaceful and centered and balanced in my life. And then I cleared out of my survival mode thinking, and within 24 hours, abundance started coming through. Just like that. It's like I switched gears, I changed the frequency of my transmitter, of my two-way radio, and I tuned into abundance. Started coming all by itself. And then money started coming, and we went from having nothing to generating massive abundance. And then Jantra's fears started kicking in, because she was afraid of having money, and she would self-destruct. She wanted to break things and sabotage, and because investing in herself, she felt guilty about it, because she'd been programmed, she'd been conditioned to keep herself poor, cut herself so that she could feed her greedy and lazy people in her family. Yeah, that was part of her conditioning. So she had to learn how to cut away the unhealthy people, the toxic people from her life, and learn to accept wealth as it was coming in. Right? Then we reached a level where so much wealth came in that I started hitting a ceiling, a plateau of, whoa, that's a lot of money, and it starts driving you a little bit mad. So then you invest in yourself and create the situations that allow you to become comfortable. Because there's something to be said about being comfortable and happy and present and creative and in thriving mode with zero. And that allows you to then ramp up to being thriving and creative with millions. But you can't do it if you don't hit that zero first. So I had to go down to zero to learn how to be happy with zero, so that I could then really be authentically happy with everything. Jantra already knew how to be happy with zero. She had to then learn how to be happy with everything. It's a full range.
I feel from mid-20s, in Sydney. We were, had a nice Porsche 911, living opposite the Opera House. So we were living that kind of lifestyle. Then we had our first business, went down to zero. And then that grew, and then we started the cleaning company, and then we separated. So I went back down to zero. So being at zero, I'm quite comfortable because I've got the education and I've done it before, that I know I have the tools that I can generate money. But I definitely have a struggle with abundance of wealth. I definitely struggle. I definitely don't aim for it. I don't strive for it. Another client at the Ritz-Carlton from top 10 family in India, speaking to me about, flying me on his plane and all these things to hang out, in his villa in Phuket. No interest. I have zero interest. That sort of thing doesn't.
That's a
And he's
that's a script
yes,
in
it
your
is.
mind. You have a script that blocks that. So identify.
So how do I?
You map out all your thoughts. You need to spend a few hours a day mapping out your thoughts, or you need to have a little journal, or you can speak them and you can record them and then transcribe them. All your thoughts about your body, what's right, what's wrong with it, your emotions, your mind, the mindset, how you think about your mind, about money, about life, about love, about sex, about spirit, about God. There's a series of territories. There's 10 different areas that our minds can only think about, that and random stuff. And then there's some books that I would recommend. I'll send you a reading list.
Please. Absolutely.
There's a book called Emotional Wellness by an Indian mystic called Osho, which is just absolutely
Osho, yeah.
Okay, so emotional wellness will give you everything you need to be able to achieve emotional wellness. It's not complicated. Emotions have been around. I mean, all animals have them. We have no emotion that no animal doesn't have. There's nothing unique about our emotions. The only thing we're doing is that we're repressing them. We're labeling them as positive or negative emotions, as resourceful states or unresourceful states. And this, it's best to remove all judgment from them. They're all there for a reason. You just need to map out why there's a repressed anger or a sadness or a fear, or what are the things that you've associated guilt and shame and negativity towards. And just be aware of it and just stop doing that. And as far as the mind is concerned, as far as money is concerned, there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon, which discusses how money works and how money worked since the invention of money 10,000 years ago. And then something happened in 1972. In 1972, Richard Nixon, president of the US at the time, changed from money to fiat currency. He took the dollar off the gold standard, and this created fiat currency. And fiat currency is a pure thought form. And thoughts attract thoughts. So if you have negative thoughts about money, you are repelling money and repelling people that will do work with you that would give you money. And you have positive thoughts about money, then you're attracting money. So Robert Kiyosaki's set up a company called the Rich Dad Company, and there's a series of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the first book I would read. If you've already read it, reread it.
Read that. Yeah, I need to reread it.
Reread it and look for specifically the poor thoughts that you have, that you imprinted from your society, that you repeat to yourself, that you've gotten from family and partners and friends and whatnot. And then look at the positive thinking and see how you can reframe, use your NLP to first understand what money is, and then understand the difference between, and how to grow it, between money and currency. And then how do you think as far as money and currency is concerned? Map out those thoughts, because if you have poor thoughts and contradictory thoughts about money, the money won't come to you.
Yeah.
It simply won't come.
Keep focusing on currency being freedom to live life on my terms, but I still need the financial currency to do that.
Right. So just think of currency as a tool, and set freedom as a higher value, because you want to have freedom from currency. You need to be able to live your highest life even when you have nothing, because one day that's guaranteed. One day you'll have nothing, and then one day you'll have millions, and then the next day you'll lose everything, because it's not something in our control. Now, if you learn about money and financing and investing, right, that makes a difference. So then the second book from Robert Kiyosaki's is called Cash Flow Quadrants. He talks about cash flow in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there's the four quadrants, right? There's the E for employee, the S for self-employed or specialist, the B for business person, the I for investor. These are 4 different ways of thinking. Think of them as 4 different apps for your mind, 4 different mindsets. It's really important to understand where your strengths and where your weaknesses are. So sometimes you're working as an employee. So you're an employee for your company, you're an employee for whatever your enterprise is, and you need to know what the highest quality thoughts, employee quadrant thoughts are for yourself, and to train your staff because you want them to be good employees. And then you're a specialist because you're good at what you do, and you're the one that's creating the programs or the systems, or you have a specialist that specializes in, I don't know, cleaning carpets or something, right? So then they have to have a specialist mindset, just like a doctor or a dentist that sets up their own practice, right? They're a specialist. And then it's important to understand how, on the other side of the cash flow card, how a business mind works, how to create a business that will run itself and make money for you without you having to be there. And then you're going to make money. It's important to understand how investment works, because investment is a wheel, it's a cycle. And currency functions when it's being circulated and it's being looped around the investment wheel. So understanding how that works allows you to know what to do with the money that you have. If you have excess money, what are you going to invest it in? What do you need to invest in? What should you not invest it in? Right? Because money is an entire game. It's an entire territory of thought. So if you know what thoughts you have about your body, it can guide itself towards being healthier. If you know what thoughts you have about your emotions, you can stop repressing emotions and learn how to have a full dynamic range of emotions that are calm. And then if there's a reason to be angry, it's a reason to be angry. So you show the right amount of anger. If there's a reason to be sad, then you enjoy the depth of the sadness, because that has its value. If there's a reason to be happy or full of joy, then you dance and celebrate. And right? And then you start getting feedback from your body, as in, if I'm going in the right direction, this body effortlessly wants to get up and eat the best foods and do good work and exercise and dance and play. And it's ready to fight. It's happy to fight if it needs to. It has no problems with fighting if there's a good reason to fight. So watch out, because it's going to fight 100%. And then it never needs to, because it's so ready to like party or, go to war, that it's like, well, nobody messes with you. People rather party with you than fight with you, right? So that clears out those people. And then your thoughts about money. Well, if you have poor thoughts and you're entertaining them, if you're feeding them, if you're using them, if you're repeating them, you're creating that financial reality for yourself. So reading these books will help you see how other people think about things. And thoughts are just content. You should change your mind often. It's like, it's like, I don't know, clothes, underwear, change it often. Wash it, clean it. Every once in a while, get a fresh mind, update yourself, get a new wardrobe for yourself, right? You can do that, and you already have the skills to do that. If you've learned basic association, disassociation, identifying submodalities, reframing them, you've got it. That's the basics. Whether you need to take it to a master's level or not, why don't you see what you can do with what you have?
Yeah.
Unless there's a master practitioner out there that's really killing it as far as like being in shape and being rich and being happy and being healthy, and then take a course with these people, right? If they're not, then consider that maybe they're not as masterful as they claim to be.
Yes.
Right?
That
makes sense?
Makes me think twice. Yes.
Especially relationship coaches. Like you see these relationship coaches or these people that are out there and they're middle-aged and, or they're our age, I'm 54, and do they look better than you? Are they healthier? Are they authentically, if you really look at them carefully, like you're picking the best mango, right? You want to have the best mango, and you're just like, not sure about this one, or, oh, this is the best one, right? Like that. Pick them like that. That's how I pick people for everything I do in my life. I mean, the taxi driver is a taxi driver, but if I have a choice between a healthy one and an unhealthy one, I get in the cleaner, better smelling cab with a healthier person, and I support them.
Makes sense.
Right? So if you have a choice, go towards the best that you can. But if you have the basic NLP skills, you can start applying them to what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And the mastery level courses will always be around. Or if you feel like you don't have enough skills, well, then go do a mastery level course with someone that has something to offer you specifically in the area that you would like most help with. Right? Does that make sense? So if it's health and your body and your fitness and money, find someone who's much healthier and much richer and much more than you are, and then get them to, do their course with them. If they're kind of, frumpy and, spinning their wheels, well, then they're going to teach you the mastery of how to do that. Because remember, we're successful at everything that we do. Did you learn that? There's cause and effect and success. Yes. And if you assume responsibility for success at all the steps you've gotten to where you are now, you successfully are where you are right now. I'm successfully sitting where I am right now, and you're successfully where you are right there. The next question is, okay, what is the recipe that I used to get here? And is this the recipe I want to use to where, the strategy I want to use to where I want to go next? Right, but if you assume responsibility of how you get there, then map out, how did I get there? What do I do? What do I eat? How do I sleep? Who do I relate with? How do I think about money? Write down your strategy. I had a mentor, a psychologist, who said to me once, I asked him, how do you work with your clients? He says, when my clients come in, it doesn't matter if they've come from a war zone, they were kidnapped, they were cut into pieces, or they just are depressed because their daddy bought them a BMW instead of a Mercedes. Whatever their story is, I tell them the following. You got 5 minutes to tell me your story, exactly 5 minutes with a timer. After that, I'm only interested in what we're going to do for you to get out of there. Mm-hmm. So how did you get there? What exactly did you do to get to where you are? Physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially. Just start with those 4. Don't worry about spiritually. Don't worry about anything else. Just body, emotion, body, mind, heart, money. If you can get those 4 balanced, everything else is pretty easy. That's like the 4 legs to the table. Your body's healthy, feeling good. Your emotions are clear. Full dynamic range. Your mind, you can stop it, you can center it, you can clear it. It'll start back up again, but you're slowly mapping it out. And then financially, well, am I in survival mode? Do I need to be in survival? Am I in survival? Should I think like I'm in survival mode? Because your intuition will function differently. Your creativity will function differently in survival mode than in living mode and in thriving mode. When I'm in survival mode, I want to fight or flight, live or die intuition to kick on, because that's what I need to do. But I don't want that when I'm living, because that just drags me back down. It's like, you have gears in the car to shift up from first to second to third. You don't want to stay in first or second gear on the highway, right? Yeah. So if you're in survival, you stay in survival mode, but you already live in a nice place with a pool and you've got this and that and you're doing courses. And why are you still in survival mode? Does it make sense to be in survival? So maybe just do a meditation, a contemplation, sort of an analysis on yourself, right? Where you ponder, am I really in survival mode? What would constitute survival for me, you, right? What would constitute living for survival for Melissa, living for Melissa, and thriving? And see if you can get the numbers as low as possible so that it makes sense. But I know I can thrive with nothing and with minimal wage. Because I've been there. So with wherever you're at now, you have the discretionary time. I would consider that you're already in thriving mode. You're in the low end of thriving. There's the low end of thriving and the high end of thriving.
Yeah.
But you might not need to be in survival. So all your survival thoughts, map them out, categorize them, and put them into for survival, an emergency kit. Right? You have a fire extinguisher in your kit for fire, but you don't carry the fire extinguisher around in case there's a fire, right? You have it there ready, and you grab it when it's needed. Same like that. You can treat your thoughts as tools, and if they're all rusty and broken, throw them away and clean them up and get better tools, get better thoughts. That's what NLP helps you do. Better way of thinking. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Thank you. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You've given me a lot to think about and digest and understand and reframe and unlearn. And
That's right. That's right. And if you just give yourself a couple hours a day to do that, step by step, you'll get some traction. It'll start clearing up, and you'll see within 3 weeks, a month of doing that, you will have gained traction, cleared out junk, which increases the bandwidth for your intelligence, your creativity, your intuition, and you'll create a healthy habit of doing that, which means you just keep doing it. And it never ends, by the way. I still have to brush and floss my teeth after every meal if I want to have a healthy mouth. That doesn't end. I brushed it once. Well, yeah, okay, great. And then the next time you eat, you got to do it again. So unless you're going to go live a monastic life alone in a cave somewhere, then, you know, someone's going to bring you a bowl of rice. Okay, well, then you don't need to worry about doing anything. It's a very simple life. But if you're going to be an active participant in life, you need to go out there and get dirty. Right? Which means you then need to be able to clean it up. And you're already a professional cleaner. So just clean your inside house. Clean house on the inside.
mm-hmm.
I had also a dear friend, mentor, and now a colleague of mine, who I used to go to these dance parties, these raves out in the Mojave Desert. It's called Moon Tribe, 20, 30 years ago. And he was 20 years older than me and always dancing. Oh, I was in my 30s, he was in his 50s. I was like, how do you do that? And he says, well, I clean my house before coming out. And I was like, right, I clean my house too. He goes, no. I literally clean my house. I clean my kitchen. I pay all my bills. I answer all my letters. I call if I was rude to my mother, I call her and I apologize to her. I clear everything. So I'm completely clear on the inside and on the outside. Now I can dance all night. I can do whatever. I was like, that sounds interesting. So clean house, inside and outside. Physically be clean, right? Put yourself in a little beautiful little wooden cage and eat the yummiest organic food so that your body poops out the junk. That'll take a few days, a few weeks. You'll notice a difference in your body. Emotionally, eat the best, yummiest organic emotional experiences. And stay away from the toxic people. Right?
Yeah.
Thoughts. Yeah. I see what thoughts you're having, and what kind of thoughts are you having? You're having lots of negative thoughts. Stay away from the news and from violent movies, especially before breakfast. An hour after waking up, an hour before going to bed, your mind, your cognitive filters are porous. There's a boundary between your conscious mind and your unconscious layers of your mind. Those become porous, or you're sort of in a hypnagogic state when you're first waking up, or when you're low blood sugar, or you're tired and hungry, or you're driving. It puts you in a sort of hypnotic state, and before you go to bed. So these are times to avoid the news. They're time to avoid getting into arguments and fights. Right? If I have to have an argument with John Trey, it's like after breakfast. Oh, let me have breakfast. Let me get a massage. I'm going to kick your butt. What do you want to fight about, right? And then you take fun. It's like, now we're going to have an argument. But no, not before breakfast. I'm tired. Listen, let me get in shape. Let me go. Okay, I'm going to get myself strong. Then I'm going to get you. Right? And just turn it into a fun game. Because sometimes there's needs to be cleaned up. And something that really helps is just, scrub your own toilet, clean your own kitchen, like clean your old shoes and clean them off. And while you're at it, let your mind dig up the dirtiness, the junk, the fears, the insecurities, the things that are there. You clean them out by cleaning. Actually, cleaning is very cathartic.
I agree.
And living in a clean space is very empowering. Of course, when we arrive in Bangkok, we want to arrive in a clean place. That's why we call you, because I don't want to arrive and deal with the mess of travel and be in Bangkok and then have to clean. That's a little too much, right?
Yeah, understand. Yeah.
Just you can do it. Everything's there, and you have the basic skills. So see how far you can clean, and then if you get stuck with something, feel free to send me a message saying, "Hey, I'm getting stuck here." I'm all happy to say, "Hey, try reading this or consider that." But
Really appreciate it.
99% of it out. because you have all the skills and you have the life experience to draw on. They're the things that you have direct knowledge of from your direct experience of life. That's your wisdom. Those are your insights. You tune into those. And then the things you heard, hearsay, ideas, philosophies, beliefs, what if I just put them down for a while? Just experience for myself. What is good for this body? What does this body really like to eat? How does this body like to, does it like to swim? Does it like to run? Does it like to dance? Right? How does it move? Do I do a little yoga? Just give it a chance.
Yeah. And
stop beating yourself about it, because the mind telling the body what to do or what not to do is the wrong way. Allow the body to discover what it needs to feel good. According to you, you're a unique being. I don't know what you need to flower, but I know that if you give yourself the right conditions, you will flower. Right? It's like we have these, there's orchid hunters that we meet every once in a while. They contact us when they find a rare orchid from the jungles in the area. So we buy it from them. And there are orchids that flower once a year, twice a year for like a week during the right conditions of the monsoon season, because they're deep in the jungle. So I'm a biologist. I've got botanist friends in Chiang Mai. I contact them. I send them pictures and descriptions of the plants. They tell me what the scientific name for it is, and they send me a list of conditions that it needs to flower. Now in our greenhouse, we give it the conditions and they flower all year round. They're only rare because they're not getting the conditions they need to flower. So I thought to myself, I wonder if we humans are the same way. Yep. Yeah. Our creative flowerings, our flowerings of beauty, of love, of creativity, of intuition, of insight, they're like flowers, right? They come up, they open, and the flower will die. They're not plastic flowers, they're real flowers. Even the most beautiful flower wilts and dies. It's supposed to. These creative flowerings come when you give yourself the right conditions. Not what you think is right, what is actually right. So you're eating the foods that your body needs because your body needs them. For example, for me to flower here in nature on the beach with nobody, a coconut, a banana, some yogurt, a little piece of cheese now and then, a soft-boiled egg, that's all I need. Some nuts, a piece of chocolate. I'm as happy as can be. In Bangkok, doing business, working with people, I need 100 grams of medium rare, grass-fed, quality beef once a week. If I'm working with people that are dealing emotional traumas, they've been violated, hurt, raped, they've been really abused tremendously, pork, mu grub, pork belly. I need bacon. Something about it grounds my emotions, helps me feel grounded and centered, allows me to work with these people. So much so that if somebody shows up at one of our retreat centers and they're vegetarians, the first thing we do is we start feeding them meats. And if they've never been vegetarian, the first thing we do is wean them off meats and just try only eating vegetables to see how you think. And then here's some beef, here's some pork, here's some chicken, here's some fish, right? See how your body responds to the different nutrients, because different foods for different activities. If I want to learn a new language, I can learn any language in 3 weeks, but I eat a lot of shrimp.
Is it fascinating?
Yeah. So that's part of knowing yourself, right?
Yeah. I experienced it at the farm in the Philippines. Have you heard of the farm?
No.
It's all of the holistic. They have everything from traditional. You can do the spa therapies and the take it on personal trainer. Or you can do the acupuncture and go more the holistic. You can do detox. I did 10-day detox there, and it was all plant-based before and after the detox, and it was amazing. The clarity and just the way my skin looked, it was just unreal. I mean, no skin product or cream or serum would ever, duplicate what that 10 days did.
Right. So why aren't you doing more of that? You can do that at home, right?
That's my question. That's what I'm trying to ask.
Right.
I have the information, I have the education, but I self-sabotage constantly, and I'm not processing negative thoughts on a daily basis that I'm aware of, but I'm very aware that I'm self-sabotaging.
Right. So part of it may be that for an active lifestyle, that's not for me, that would not be the right. See, that's the right diet for that experience. Or if you're going to live a minimalistic lifestyle, where you just, you sit and you have a little farm, you grow some vegetables, and you have a beautiful place in nature, and there's nothing to do. But if you're an active participant and you're out there and you're meeting people and you've got friends, you've got lovers, you've got family, you're an active being, this body requires a certain amount of meat to do that. So then I get the best quality grass-fed Australian beef and organic chicken and pork and organic eggs, and I'm careful to eat the highest quality food because the foods are full of toxins, growth hormones.
Yeah, we spoke about this.
Right. So then that comes through in my skin. Same with Jantra, same with Napu. So if your skin needs clearing, it's because you're eating the wrong foods for it. For the amount of toxins from the air and from the food and all of that. So our skin, I can tell how healthy someone is, like their body, their blood, just by their skin. And here, for example, here in Kopangan, it's hard to find organic vegetables because very few people grow them because it's so much easier to grow things with chemicals. But lots of people sell so-called organic vegetables. So Jantra has gotten to know all the different little vendors and farmers in the area. And she goes to them, and when she's up to them, she gets close enough to look in their eyes, look at their skin, smell them, and ask them if they eat the food. Like, yeah, it's organic, I eat it. And if they're covered in spots and their eyes are yellow and they smell bad, they're lying. They're just flat out lying. It's not possible. So we only buy organic food from people who are healthy because they demonstrate by eating, by living, that their food is actually healthy. So we get people, and if you just give yourself a high quality diet, usually within 3 days, people begin to notice a shift in their body. They're like, oh, I feel, because, within 3 days, you've cleared out any gunk in your digestive system. And now, like the snails, of course, it takes a little longer, but even our daughter, who's now 10, she will, by default, choose health. We don't have to tell her what to choose. She'll choose healthier food because it feels better. Mm-hmm. Simple. Just like, would you wear shoes that pinch and hurt, or the same shoes that feel comfortable, like you can walk all day and dance all day on them? You're going to pick the pinchy ones, the hurty ones? It doesn't make any sense, right? So sometimes you just have to think about, what am I doing and why? Oh, I want to go towards better and yummier. Okay, so every time you do, step up.
And I do that for my daughter, like you just mentioning that, like we've, her father and I have been adamant on the, food. She will always choose, the good options naturally, because that's how, she was taught growing up. But then I don't follow that method.
Sure.
Do I not love myself as much as I love my daughter? Is that what I'm...
They're unconscious conditionings and patterns, and you need to clear out as much of them as you can consciously. And in some cases, there's deeper work to be done to go in. And this is where there's certain medicines that can be used, plant medicines like ayahuasca and San Pedro, that help you go deeper into yourself. But that's not necessary for everyone. And you can really clear out 90% of what's going on just with your conscious awareness. Your adult NLP trained conscious awareness of mind is a series of programs, and it's the quality of the code, right? Sometimes you download an app and it fails all the time, right? Or the operating system for your smartphone gets updated because they get buggy or they get junky. Same with us. The minds that were given to us, that we've imprinted, are 10,000 to 100,000 years out of date. Life today is a bit different than it was in the past. So it's time to start assuming control of the content of your mind, because the content is full of all sorts of, things you've memorized, but it's also full of like apps. It's full of like commands. Mm-hmm. Thou shalt not, or thou shalt, or do this, or don't do this. And some of them are contradictory. So then it creates a tension. And all of that prevents you from being present. And you want to be present to your body. The body has to be aware of itself, and it has a mind. Mm-hmm. You're a thinking, feeling body that has a mind that's controlling it. Because the programming in the mind that was given to you in order for you to be controlled. All children automatically imprint a mind that believes and is controllable. Mind that children have and that we all keep until we drop it is an external control device, because you have to be able to guide your child through dangers remotely. Sometimes you just have to say something to get them out of the way, or stop, or jump, or move, or this is good, this is bad. But then when we reach puberty, the intelligence at the other end of our spinal column activates. We're now complete as human beings, and we have everything we need to make our own choices based on our experience of what's happening in the moment. We use our body to, I use this body assesses the conditions and the situations in the moment and draws from a life experience, and has a mind of options, and has a mind that can create, is trained to create options, menus of options, and then whatever feels best, that's the direction this body's going. All right, does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Yes.
So if you set yourself up like that, and you have the skills to do that because you've done the basic NLP training, you begin to self-tune yourself. You need to assume conscious command of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And also be able to just stop and be present from a state of no mind. If you can do both, you have everything you need to clear yourself. It's just a question of how much time are you going to dedicate to it. And the more you do, well, you've got a big mess to clean up, and you're going to clean for 5 minutes a day. All right, well, that'll help something, as long as you're not making 5 minutes worth of more dirtiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the outbox has to empty out faster than the inbox piles in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you can do that with yourself, and just create that as your mantra, set that as your, I'm going to do everything I can to improve the quality of my life, even if it's just one step. Eat one handful less of bad food, one handful more of good food, and progressively keep adding it. Right? And just switch over. Same with emotions, same with the movies you're watching or the songs you're singing. Listen to the words of the lyrics you're repeating. Do they make sense? Are they really like of the highest value? Or are they just fun and silly, or do they make you dumb and stupid? Some of the things we do there are such things as stupid thoughts and ideas.
Mm-hmm.
They take up so much time and so much bandwidth trying to resolve that we lose the intelligence that we have when we can be present.
Yeah, a lot to digest, but I could listen to you all day long. Truly appreciated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
My pleasure.
So many emotions are just, swirling around at the moment, but yeah,
Let them swirl.
thank you.
Let them swirl. Let them just sit. Allow things to be.
Truly appreciated.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you again. You've brightened up my day completely.
Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you and seeing some changes and some differences.
Thank you. Say
Very
hi
welcome.
to the rest of the family, to the girls.
Will do. Take care.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.